Tonight, a CBN News exclusive. Our interview with Donald Trump.
Mr. President, great to see you again, sir.
Thank you.
The former president speaks out.
And they want me back.
Plus, the Federal Reserve works to combat inflation by hiking interest rates. And long COVID.
It's nothing but a cold. It's nothing but a cold. And it's like, well, I just lost 2 years of my life from being sick from it.
Doctors scramble for people suffering from lingering symptoms. All this and more tonight on Faith Nation.
Abortion, LGBTQ rights, and religion in America. Former President Donald Trump wades into the water of the culture wars in an exclusive interview. Welcome to Faith Nation. I'm John Jessup.
And good evening, I'm Jenna Browder. Well, he may no longer hold political office, but the political power of Donald Trump has not waned. In fact, 60% of Republicans say they still view the former president as their party leader. And in that role, he has a lot to say, including that he thinks he was the best, and many people want him back in office.
Though the question on the minds of many, will he or won't he run for president in 2024? CBN's David Brody sat down with a former president to discuss that, and as well as the leaked Supreme Court draft opinion, culture, and the upcoming midterm elections.
How are you? Nice to see you. Good to see you. Better?
When our CBN News crew met a relaxed Donald Trump at Mar-a-Lago, there was plenty to talk about. Mr. President, great to see you again, sir.
Thank you.
Specifically, the leaked Supreme Court draft opinion that could overturn Roe v. Wade. The Supreme Court, this big deal, Roe v. Wade. The Supreme Court now authenticating that draft opinion by Sam Alito, in essence overturning Roe v. Wade. Were you surprised to see this?
Well, we don't know exactly if that's true because it was certainly something that they're working on. It would imagine. I don't think anyone made it up. And they don't know who leaked it. I will say the leak was a terrible thing. You're just not used to that for the Supreme Court. It was very shocking, I think. I think it was a very bad thing for the court.
Well, Chuck Schumer says it's all your fault, of course, if Roe v. Wade gets overturned. Obviously, he's talking about those 3 pro-life Supreme Court justices.
Yeah.
Impact your thoughts?
Well, a lot of people are very happy about that.
Of
So
course.
some people maybe say it's my fault, and some people say, thank you very much.
From abortion to the transgender movement's rise to Disney's embracing gay rights, our culture is in the midst of a serious fight. This transgender movement is out of control. Joe Biden thinks there's at least 3 genders. I would think more. What do you make of it specifically? And I am curious as it relates to whether or not you see this transgender movement, not transgender people, but the movement is evil, unbiblical. A lot of people say this is not the way it should be.
It's not the way it should be, that's for sure. It is a terrible thing. I mean, especially where you're taking children that don't even have this period to form. And you know, in many cases, I hear 60% of the cases, later life, they're saying, why did they do this to me? 60%. No, I think it's a terrible thing. I think what's happened with Disney and what Disney's doing, Walt Disney is looking down.
What's he thinking?
He's not happy, okay? Walt Disney said, whatever happened to my beautiful Magic Kingdom?
Whatever is happening, there are charges that those who support discussing the LGBT lifestyle with little kids are in what they call the grooming business. Trump says he gets it. What's your view on the grooming comments that a lot of conservatives think this is grooming by the left?
Yeah, I'm opposed to it, obviously. I'm opposed to many of the things that we talk about. I can think of nothing actually that I'd be for. This is a different world. It's a new world. And I think it's actually going to be shut out. You know how it's going to get shut out? Common sense. It's common sense. But I think it's going, and I think religion will help shut it out. You know, nobody has done more for Christianity. Nobody has done more for religion of all type than me. And they're really doing things now to, and I've always said it, they are against organized religion. They're against Christianity.
And now free speech faces another potential challenge, courtesy of the Biden administration's Disinformation Governance Board, aimed at making sure Americans have the truth on a variety of topics. It's led to comparisons of George Orwell's Ministry of Truth in the book 1984.
I think that it's not even believable that we're talking about this subject, if you want to know the truth. Who would have believed that we're talking about somebody that's going to censure people over a period of over a long period of time and very strong. Now they're saying, oh, no, it's just a recommendation. That's where it all began. I guess that's what they used to say in Russia. That's what they said in the Soviet Union, right? We're just going to do a little bit. No, we can't do that. We can't do that. That's a horrible thing.
Imagine you, in your administration, introducing some sort of Ministry of Truth. What the media would have done with
Well,
that.
I have a Ministry of Truth. It's called Truth. It's called Truth Social.
The truth about the upcoming midterm elections is that polls show the GOP poised for victory. Trump, as you might imagine, sees himself leading the way. He saw fruit Tuesday night when J.D. Vance, his endorsed Senate candidate, won Ohio's GOP primary. You know the media is going to be looking at your one-loss record. You've endorsed a lot of candidates. What's your sense here in terms of how this will play out? And how much stock do you put in this win-loss record of yours?
So my record is unparalleled. My endorsements, it's totally unparalleled. Nobody's ever had a record like this. I'm almost unblemished.
I remember Joe Biden saying months ago at this press conference he had that he goes, he couldn't believe all these Republicans still afraid of Trump. It's like, oh, they were all afraid of Trump. Should Republicans be afraid of you, the ones that are not in line with you and your views?
Well, if they want to win politically, probably, because if I endorse them, they win, and if I don't endorse them, they don't win. I mean, that's almost 100% of the case.
As poll after poll shows Trump as the likely GOP leader going forward, it looks like he'll be moving on without his vice president, Mike Pence. How is that relationship today with Mike Pence?
Honestly, I haven't spoken to Mike in a long time.
What's a long time, would you say, roughly? I mean, I don't want people to start saying what a long time is.
A long time is 4 or 5 months. I haven't spoken to him in a long time. And he's a nice man. He disappointed me on one thing because I think he should have sent the votes back to the legislatures.
If he gets into the race in 2024, he's thinking about it. I'm assuming you're going to say, I don't want to put words in your mouth. No shot here if he gets in the race in 2024?
I don't want to say. Look, if Mike got in, it would be, I think it would be a hard one for him. I think it would be a hard one. I understand where the base is. I love the base. The base loves me. I think it would be hard, but Mike was a good guy. I thought he was a very good vice president. He was my friend.
But that was then. As 2024 rounds the corner, Trump says he'll decide about running again after the midterms. Until then, he's taking every opportunity to use the Biden administration's troubles to tell the country he was right all along.
I said these people are against evangelicals. I said they're against Israel. I said they're against organized religion, frankly, but they're against all of the things that you and I and most of your viewers stand for. And when I said that during debates and elsewhere, people sort of weren't sure. I turned out to be right. And I've had many people say, as good as I think we were, they said, you were the best at it. You were the best, and they want me back. Everything I said was right, by the way. And I'm not just talking about energy and the border, I'm talking about religion.
And from all appearances, Donald Trump is ready for an encore. David Brody, CBN News, at Mar-a-Lago in Palm Beach, Florida.
And sticking with the topic of the president, a Trump endorsement catapulted U.S. Senate hopeful J.D. Vance to victory in the Ohio Republican primary. Tuesday's vote viewed as a bellwether race showcasing the strength of Mr. Trump's backing heading into the midterm elections. Vance, a vocal Trump critic in the past, reversed course and embraced the former president's agenda. Most polls had the best-selling author lagging behind the crowd of GOP candidates before the Trump endorsement a few weeks ago. The Ohio primary was the first marquee matchup of the midterm cycle. Vance will now take on Democrat Tim Ryan for a seat in the U.S. Senate in November.
And joining us now is Tony Perkins, president of the Family Research Council, Tony, welcome. Always good to see you. Last night, obviously, a good night for Donald Trump. What does Vance's victory mean for other races and the weight of Donald Trump's endorsement as we head into November?
Well, Jen and John, good to be with you. It's a hard act to follow there, the former president. But I will tell you, his endorsement means a lot. And if I were a candidate running, I would rather run with the former president's endorsement than without it. Clearly made a difference in Ohio. But here's some underlying numbers there that that paint a picture that is very positive for Republicans. You had both Democratic and Republican primaries yesterday. The Republican turnout was twice that of the Democrats. The enthusiasm is on the side of Republicans. Now, I know the president weighed into this, but that enthusiasm we're seeing across the country, that is a key to election success, enthusiasm. It's not the number of registered voters. It's not the percentage. It is the enthusiasm level, and clearly that is with Republicans right now.
Tony, we want your perspective on the leaked but now confirmed Supreme Court draft opinion poised to overturn Roe v. Wade. As someone who is staunchly and devoutly pro-life, what do you say to those on the other side of the argument who see this as a huge problem, particularly for minority and low-income women?
I find it quite amazing, as I was, in fact, talking to a reporter yesterday, listening to Chuck Schumer. It sounds like he took my speech when I was running for the U.S. Senate back in 2002 about how the court is shredding the Constitution and is unaccountable. Look, the statements that have been made in the last 36 hours are remarkable from Democrats, but they missed the mark. This is not the court imposing something on the nation like they did 50 years ago with Roe v. Wade in 1973. What this is doing is putting this back into a posture that we might be able to reach a living consensus as a nation by allowing the states, or the people rather, through their elected representatives to reach a functioning policy on this. And clearly what's going to happen? You're going to have more than half the states are going to eliminate abortion or restrict it in a very significant way so that they embrace the sanctity of human life. That's reflective of where Americans are at today, and I think that is going to be the outcome if this draft opinion is close to what the final opinion looks like.
Tony, the Biden administration has implemented a governance board to combat the problem of misinformation. David talked about it there. Your thoughts on this and whether it could create issues for people like pastors speaking from the pulpit?
Well, I have some recommendations. If they want to start looking for misinformation, they don't have very far to go. The Biden administration has been putting out quite a bit of misinformation. Look, I think free speech is a fundamental issue for Americans. We must do everything we can to protect it. And I am very leery of any administration, Republican or Democrat, that says, look, we want to make sure that there is correct information, there is not disinformation. I say let the market, the free market of thought and speech, determine what people receive, what people believe, and what they act upon, not what the government says is good for them.
I think a lot of people would agree with you on the right, left, and in the middle. Tony Perkins with the Family Research Council. We always appreciate your insights and time. Thank you, Tony.
Thank you. Always great to be with you guys.
Well, the fight to lower inflation coming up. The big announcement from the Fed today in an attempt to rein in prices. Welcome back. Well, another interest rate hike from the Federal Reserve. This one the biggest we've seen in more than 2 decades. The Fed announcing today it's raising interest rates by 0.5 percentage point. It comes on the heels of a 0.25 percentage point hike in mid-March. Today, Fed Chairman Jerome Powell also signaled more increases will be necessary.
There is a broad sense on the committee that additional 50 basis point increases should be on the table at the next couple of meetings. The American economy is very strong and well positioned to handle tighter monetary policy.
And there's concern the Fed's actions will weaken the economy and lead to a recession. Powell says he believes that can be avoided, pointing to a stronger labor market and the savings of many households and businesses.
Here now, Stephen Moore, chair of FreedomWorks Task Force on Economic Revival. Steve, always great to see you. These are the fastest rate hikes, as Jenna just said, in decades. Steve, is it too much, too fast?
No, actually, it's just the opposite. It's too little, too late. This should have been done. I think I mentioned this 9-10 months ago on your show that the Fed was way behind the curve. Remember, first they said there's no inflation. And then when the inflation got worse, then they said, oh, it's transitory, it's temporary, it's going to go away. Then they said it'll be fine. And now we're in this inflation crisis where inflation in 15 months, because when Biden left office, when Trump left office, we had 1.5% inflation. Now we're up to 8.5%. And I think that this is not sufficient to deal with the inflation virus that is out there right now. I think we need much, more aggressive action by the Fed. And so I felt like this was kind of a dovish action by the Fed, not taking, basically Jerome Powell said, trust me, we can get this inflation under control. Why should we trust him? He's been wrong for the last year. Every decision he's made and every declaration the Fed has made for the last year has been wrong.
For a lot of consumers at home, Steve, I think they're wondering, okay, we see these rate hikes. When will we actually see prices at the gas pump, at the grocery store? When will we actually see prices come down?
Boy, I hope soon, but I can't say that. Look, the price of oil went up after this decision. Think about that. The price of oil and other commodities went up. They didn't go down. So that means that we're going to continue to flush all this money into the economy. And don't forget, the other part of this equation, I mean, what is the match that lit this bonfire of higher inflation? We've talked about it on your show. It's the trillions and trillions of dollars that the Biden administration has spent that we don't have. They've borrowed trillions of dollars. We printed all this money. We're flushing it into the economy. Of course, that's going to lead to inflation. Now, the Fed can't do much about that, right? They can't stop Congress and the Biden administration from spending money we don't have. And so I do think the much more important than even these Fed rate hikes is getting the Congress to stop spending and borrowing trillions of dollars we don't have.
Stephen, the Fed is set to start shrinking the huge stockpile of Treasury and mortgage bonds. How does it do that? How does it manage raising interest rates to restrain inflation while reducing its Treasury and bond holdings? It seems like a delicate dance.
Well, first of all, why is it that for the last couple of years the Fed has been buying any assets, right? I mean, when the Fed, just so people understand, when the Fed buys assets like mortgage-backed securities or else, they've been buying trillions of dollars of our Treasury bonds, all they're doing is putting more money into the economy. And so that has contributed to this inflation problem as well. I think they should never have done it in the first place. I'm glad to hear they're going to stop doing it and they'll actually start selling assets rather than buying them. But again, too little, too late. Why did it take them a year to realize what every American consumer could see? High gas prices, high food prices, high airline tickets, high prices of everything. So you can tell I'm frustrated because it just seems like the Fed was asleep at the switch.
Yeah. Steve, just about 30 seconds left here, but what does it all mean for credit? Things like credit card interest rates, car loans, mortgages.
It means interest rates are going to go up. And you look what's happened to the mortgage rate just in the last number of months. We had mortgage rates under 4%. Now they're up to 5.2%, and they'll probably continue to climb. And that's going to cause some problems for people who want to buy homes, right? Because we have high prices of homes, and then the mortgage rate is rising. So I do worry about our housing market as well. Look, we have a president who has come in and a little over a year has done almost everything wrong on the economy. We're paying a high price for that, literally, in terms of every time you go to the grocery store and every time you go to the gas pump.
All right, Stephen Moore, we have to leave it there. Good to see you. Thank you.
Thanks, Stephen.
Thanks, guys.
The symptoms that never stop. Why some who suffer from COVID never fully recover. When Faith Nation returns.
COVID cases are on the rise here in the United States. In late March, the country averaged about 25,000 new cases a day. Now CDC figures show that number has more than doubled to about 56,000.
All the while, some who contracted the virus months or even years ago still face the lingering effects of the disease with a phenomenon dubbed long COVID. CBN's Brody Carter reports on a new study designed to help research what the future holds for those still suffering with symptoms.
I actually tested positive for COVID twice. The first time was in November of 2020. Headaches, fatigue, tachycardia, shortness of breath, GI issues. I had hair loss, tinnitus, just ringing in my ears, activity intolerance, insomnia. I have a cardiologist, an electrophysiologist, a pulmonologist. I have 2 different neurologists, 20-some, I think it was like 26 pills a day.
COVID-19 turned the world upside down for more than 2 years. The fortunate ones survived and healed. But for Alyssa Rubel, an ICU nurse in Grand Rapids, Michigan, her COVID symptoms never went away.
The general population doesn't see how bad COVID really affects people because they're like, oh, it's nothing but a cold. It's nothing but a cold. And it's like, well, I just lost 2 years of my life from being sick from it.
Despite naysayers and those who doubt long COVID, Alyssa was debilitated, forced to take off almost a full year from work.
Long COVID is real, and even if we don't have a blood test for it, there are definitely people who had COVID in March of 2020 who are still sick. So some people are having symptoms for, at least a couple of years.
The CDC estimates 1 in 3 people who get COVID suffer from long-term symptoms. Leora Horowitz, a professor at NYU School of Medicine, says it's hard to track long COVID cases due to a broad list of symptoms that could follow after a fight with COVID.
Some people are having trouble concentrating, trouble thinking. They call it brain fog. Some people are having fatigue and exhaustion. They could have scarring in their lungs forever. The risk of things like heart attack or stroke or kidney failure or diabetes is increased after people have COVID, even if they recover completely and they don't have these other symptoms.
Congress approved $1.5 billion for the National Institutes of Health to research the cause, prevention, and hopefully find a treatment for long COVID patients.
It's called Recover, and the website is recovercovid.org.
And you're being asked to sign up on the website to participate in a critical study. Regardless if you've had COVID or not, researchers need data from as many people as possible to find answers for people like Alyssa.
Finally something after 2 years of just, we don't know anything. The fact that there's this massive budget to actually do something, and hopefully we can get some answers.
Brody Carter, CBN News.
Still ahead, the oldest living person shares her secret to a long life. We'll be right back. Finally tonight, she survived the Spanish flu and World War II. And now at 118 years old, a French nun has just made history.
Guinness World Records has officially declared Sister Andre the oldest person alive. The former teacher spent her early years serving orphans and the elderly, dedicating her life to religious service. Sister Andre also holds the title for both, get this, oldest nun living and oldest COVID survivor. Her secret to longevity may not be for everyone. She says she enjoys chocolate, a hearty breakfast, and a glass of wine daily, and keeps her mind active with positive thinking. Jenna, I just got to say, we can't cut her 118 years short. She's actually 118, 2 months, and 23 days.
When you get to that point, every day matters and counts.
Thanks for watching.
Yeah. Have a great night.